Hello and welcome to the second video podcast from A Tribe Called Health. A Tribe Called Health is made up of predominantly video health and fitness professionals and convenes for roundtable discussions relevant to sustainable, health-promoting lifestyles. We're about to get this started, but first a disclaimer. This broadcast does not constitute medical or legal advice. If you need medical or legal advice, seek a doctor or a lawyer. If you are a doctor or a lawyer and need health or fitness advice, get in the tribe.
Lyrics to go.
Today, we really get into the meat and sweet potatoes of it all. We are talking about healthy lifestyles and how they affect our relationships. All of them. Family, romantic, work relationships, even strangers on the street.
Hey everybody, my name is Joe Regnola. I'm a holistic health counselor and functional diagnostic nutritionist, and the author of a couple of books, a new one coming out called So, Planting the Seeds for Health, Well-Being, and a Superhero Life. I do one-on-one coaching and group coaching and cooking classes, and I also run a blog at wellnesspunks.com with a bunch of recipes and good stuff like that. Facebook page, if you just search Wellness Punks, you'll find me there. And if you want more info on the book, go to SoHappyNow.com. That's S-O-W, happynow.com. And yeah, John, what's up?
Hi, I'm John Randalls from sexfoodandkettlebells.com, an ancestral guide to basically ancestral health in the modern world. Write that with my fiance Barbara. I'm also the owner of Legendary Fitness Canada and a MoveNat certified trainer. And yeah, you can find us on Facebook, Sex Food and Kettlebells, and here to shoot the shit, talk health.
Cool.
All right, my turn. I'm Eric Hulse, holistic health coach through the Czech Institute and the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. I'm also a elementary school music teacher, and you can check me out at erichulse.com, and that's it.
Cool. So I'm chomping at the bit here to dive into these drinks. We said in the last podcast that we were going to start this off with a shot. A celebratory shot, and also a little something to loosen us up a bit so we can be moderately entertaining. So I've got my my Patron Cafe here.
Oh, I got Jose. You went for the top shelf.
I keep it classy, yo.
You sure did. I kept it cheap, yo.
Well, you know, do. John, what do you got there?
I got some dry gin. Not my main choice, but St. Patty's Day kind of cleared me out.
I got you. Still do that.
I've got a glass of water in a Coca-Cola glass from a fast food restaurant from a terrible episode of my previous life.
Wow.
No pressure there, Todd.
Yeah. All right, so here we go, boys.
Wait, I have to get mine already. Hold on.
Oh, we spent lemon and
You're not going ready? You're not doing the lime and stuff, Joe?
No, you don't need it with real good tequila. Just drink it.
Okay.
Salute
to the tribe. Cheers.
Tribe.
I'm Todd Showman, hobbyist and faithful follower of these guys, and also here to rein them in a little bit. So, Joe, on with the show. Why don't you get us going into this week's topic?
Okay. Well, that was a great way to start the show. So this week's topic is something that I think we all sort of deal with in our own lives, but also we're working with clients. Eating healthy food and how that affects our relationships with the people around us, you know, our family, our friends, coworkers, you know, just, you know, random people we may meet in a grocery store or a coffee shop or what have you. For me, I kind of want to come at this from a couple of different angles. One is anytime you set a goal and you are, you know, whether it's just to lose weight or be healthier and eat healthier and live healthier, there are going to be certain people in your life that are just used to you being the way you've always been, and they kind of like you that way. And so they may try to sabotage you You know, even if it's not, you know, consciously. You know, those are the people who are sort of like, you know, you can have one more piece of cake or one more cookie or have another beer, you know, because that's what you've always done, and they're just not going to get used to you being healthy or trying to better your life. You know, so they just want to kind of keep you down where they are, because they just, you know, they don't want to see you change. They think that you're going to change. They think maybe you'll, you know, become more egotistical if you look better. And so they sort of judge themselves by how successful you are. And so if you become more successful at you know, with your health or your weight or with your business or whatever the case may be, then they're, you know, they're going to feel sort of less than because of that. And the other angle, this is something I deal with quite a bit with clients. It's, you know, you start to get kind of dogmatic about eating healthier. And you develop a lot of anxiety and stress and food phobias, where it just really affects your social environment. You know, it really affects their life, and it starts to affect their relationship with just about everyone in it. And the other thing is they kind of look down on people who don't maybe share their food philosophy. So, you know, those are the two angles that first came to mind when this topic came up. So. Yeah.
All right. Well, that kind of brings me to sort of my approach from it too. One angle that I would look at here, and we're going to talk about a variety of different relationships, but in general, with all of them, I feel like sometimes people can feel very easily threatened, and I think that sometimes when you're trying to deal with someone, whether it's a family member or a friend or a spouse. It's just important if this relationship is important to you and you're trying to, you know, make your lifestyle change work and not make it uncomfortable between these relationships. It's important to just try to not threaten or attack the other people, right? Which can go hand in hand with what you were saying there in the end. A lot of the time, if someone is going to be, you know, eating that bread and you're no longer eating grains, they can easily feel like by the very fact that you are no longer eating this or refusing this, you are directly telling them they are stupid or wrong, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes, especially if it's working for you, you know, that can go two ways when it's working for you. Sometimes when it's working for you, it really helps clarify the situation and justify it. Sometimes they're like, well, you're probably right, but some other times that can really get them, you know, in a soft spot, where they're obviously feeling a little vulnerable or a little guilty. And so we're going to talk about ways that you can kind of tiptoe around that area and talk about, you know, your changes and your dietary needs without, you know, highlighting the opposite points in their diet, right, or their lifestyle. So that's something to consider as well.
Yeah.
So my take, I think, is the way I do it is I mainly lead by example. You know, so I never try to put the way I think about food onto somebody else. It's more of me eating a certain way, and people see that I'm healthy and that I'm energetic and that I'm vibrant and that I can sleep at night and I don't have issues like they do. And then they start to ask me questions about it. Joe, you pouring another drink?
Nope.
Yes. Okay. So I think it's important for us to lead more by example than to tell people what to do or how they should eat. Because another thing is that everybody's body is made up differently. So what works for me may work for you, it may not work for you. So I feel like if I'm leading by example and I'm keeping my mouth shut and people see the type of life that I'm living, one that is healthy, that's when they start to ask me questions. And I think that's an easier way for people to, it's an easier way to approach the situation than saying, put that piece of bread down, or that's disgusting, why are you eating that? I have my plate filled with the foods that I think work for me. If you have a question about it, ask me about it, and then we can start a dialogue from there.
Yeah, this way you're not like alienating people or making people feel like they're, you know.
Exactly. Exactly.
Cool.
Great, Todd. What about you? You got anything to add to that right now?
Yeah, I sort of have little facets of a few things that you guys said, and I think the other thing, the other angle that I want to take is sort of one relationship that we haven't touched on is really your relationship with yourselves, and when you are not exactly feeling like you're in the mood to, let's say, prepare elaborate food that day, or you're not going to train as hard, doing whatever kind of physical training you're doing, like, how do you manage that, and that sort of thing. For me as an individual, as a really just as a hobbyist in this in this game, not that it's a game or that it's a hobby solely, it's really apparent to me how I feel when, let's say, I don't follow a protocol, much of which Joe has, really worked out for me. And it really is a real 360-degree kind of thing, because if I'm not taking care of myself, and I know that I'm not taking care of myself, with me, there's this like rubber band back in maybe like 24 to 48 hours, things just start to get bad, and I'm fatigued, my attitude isn't the all-time greatest when I'm dealing with maybe my clients, and you want to talk about maybe some of the the other relationships. So I try and break that cycle. I realize pretty early on what it is, and then I need to again rein that back in. And so that's just sort of my my take on it all is much more of a it's me kind of thing. So it's me first, and it's you secondary. Because if I'm not feeling right, then I'm not going to be best in these relationships.
I was just going to say, and I'll talk about my life too. But in general, how do the rest of you kind of handle a situation where there literally is nothing currently at that place for you to eat? And let's say maybe you're unprepared, maybe you're not. Let's just hear it. What's up, Eric?
Yeah, that's the day that I fast. That's my intermittent fasting day.
Perfect. Same here.
Yeah. If I'm going somewhere and they're not and they don't have food that I think agrees with me, I will fast that day and just not eat. And that's okay, because I know in the morning prior to when I got there, I nourished my body, and when I go home, I'm going to nourish my body. If I don't eat in those few hours, I'm cool with that. I'm not going to wither away and die.
And I think that's the benefit to eating healthier, is that you can go a pretty long stretch without eating if you have to.
Exactly. And it brings up a good time for when I'm sitting there, with nothing in front of me, and everybody's piled up with all this stuff. It's a good time for them to say, "Oh, Eric, why aren't you eating?" And that opens up a time for conversation as to, well, today I'm deciding so and so, and this is what I'm doing, and then it starts a dialogue. And then they start looking at their plate all like, "Oh crap, maybe I shouldn't be eating this." But I don't say anything. Once again, I lead by example, and I say, not to be all braggy, but they'll see me while their bellies may be touching the table, and I'm chilling,
Sounds like
looking pretty stuff over here, right? So it gives them a time to be like, all right, maybe he's on to something here. Maybe the food that I'm eating is not appropriate for me.
Right on.
And that's great. You make some great points there, Eric. I think now, especially with you, looking as fantastic as you do, and acting all, uncrossed like that, there could be some people there who might resent that a little bit, right? Especially if they're sitting there with their bellies protruding over their plate.
Nothing against y'all with
your belly right next to you. So I feel like just, sometimes, because I definitely get myself in that situation too. I think that sometimes I'll get the person to the right or the left of me being like, oh yeah, well, I don't normally have this, or I thought I was doing that. And they're all of a sudden trying to justify the pile of food that they've got. And I think I try to just, I try to reassure them, because they already know, they already see me, and they already see what's working for me, and they've just understood why I'm not eating. So I still kind of reassure them with a way, almost like saying, well, no, it's fine. Like, I try to make them comfortable, But I say, you know, it's fine. You know, you obviously know when you need to eat, and you obviously know how your body's going to respond, you know, if you don't eat or to what you're going to eat. And so, you know, you're obviously making these choices that you know work for you right now, and that's great. You should listen to yourself. So I almost kind of like compliment them or encourage that what they're doing is okay, even if they know it's not okay. They know that I'm being supportive of it, and maybe they'll even get them thinking like, wow, well, he's saying, you know, I should listen to my body, or I know, and maybe I'm really not been listening to my body, and I could start doing that. So that kind of plants a seed in there as well that I think will diffuse the situation.
And I totally agree with planting the seed. Me personally, I don't know if I would put any compliments on there, because it would be like, okay, that's really nothing to compliment you about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe not a compliment, but at least you know, something to say that you can relate to. Like, I will, you know, in that situation where it's like, you know what, you know, I'll tell them, look, I can relate to that. There was a time in my life where I was like pre-diabetic, and I had all these issues and food cravings and food addictions and sugar addictions and all this stuff. So, you know, I don't want to ever give the impression that I'm above anyone, you know, just because of the food that I eat.
Let's take a break in the action right now. I want to talk about some specifics, you know, because we've been talking a lot of generalities right here. I think we've been being, let's say, maybe a little bit nicer than we need to. Let's call some people out, maybe not by name, maybe by their role. Maybe you could make it a little vague and say a relative or a friend, but let's start with who is close to you that you really get a lot of resistance from, you know, somebody pretty close to you.
I can take that.
Do it.
Do it. No, we know it, sir. You've seen the pictures of the pie, empty pie cartons.
What'd you say?
I said, I think we know where you're going with this, because we've seen the pictures of the empty pie cartons.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, you have, and I blow up his spot every single time. You know, my partner, Austin, he's come a long way. So let me just tell you, before he started changing his diet, this would be what he would eat. It would be McDonald's on the way to work.
Oof.
Then he would probably not eat much. He'd maybe have some coffee or whatever. Probably go the whole day without eating anything, unless like one of the kids was selling like Snicker bars, and then he would go and chomp some of those down.
That's healthy.
And then he'd come home and probably have like popcorn for dinner. And like he called it the chocolate sludge, which is basically like heavy cream with powdered sugar and chocolate powder. And he would mix that crap up and guzzle it down. And that would be his thing. And that went on for quite a few years. And I led by example the entire time. I really tried to keep my mouth shut, but it wasn't until he started, oh, my joints are hurting. I wonder why. I don't look like the other boys in the gym. I wonder why. And then it hit him emotionally, and I was just like, And that's when he decided to come to ask me for help. Like, okay, what can I do for this? So it lasted for a while. He ended up losing when I took control of the situation, he ended up losing about 30 pounds.
Wow.
And we're still working on it. It's not perfect yet. We're still working on it. But he now will eat breakfast. I make dinner for us. And, you know, I don't know what he really does for lunch, but I think it's better than a Snickers bar, you know. So it comes a long way. It was rough, though, for a while.
So I give you credit, man. I don't know if I would have been able to keep it under wraps that long. I think I would have.
I think that was my first practice in leading by example.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning, I would say things here and there, but it would cause a conflict and it would cause a fight, you know? And he would begin to make fun of my food, you know, and say, I don't want that hippie food, or something like that, you know? And we would get into it back and forth. So eventually it was like, all right, I'm just going to do my thing, you do your thing, and let's see what happens. And eventually he came around.
That's cool. I think that's good advice.
Well, jumping into, you know, talk about a direct family member who I had resistance from, a little bit more how it specifically affects me, maybe not them. In general, my family has always been very, very supportive of it. I don't get any resistance. In fact, most of them, you know, eat or try to eat. the way that I do, and that's great. You know, partner, spouse, no problem. What I always had problems from in the beginning was one of my grandmothers. I got two of them, so if I don't name them, they won't know which one I'm talking about, right? if they ever listen to this shit, I don't know. But I used to be, you know, I used to be very overweight. I was definitely the fat kid in the group, and I was the fat kid in my family. That's for sure.
You've come a long way, John.
Thank you. So my grandma would always show up. And she would always have something to say about the weight I put on or something, you know, she'd kind of rub it in my face there, you know. So anyways, when I started losing weight and I started getting a lot healthier, she would also be quick to give me a compliment. She would show up and say, wow, you look so good, you've lost more weight, you're looking trim, you're looking awesome. But then, and it was because of this diet, this lifestyle, right? But then when she would make things like, you know, a casserole or bread or something like that, and I wasn't eating any of it, she would take, you know, personal offense to it, want to know why. She would try to like force feed me, you know, food. And I'm not talking when I was a kid. This is just in any recent years. But she'd still, you know, it could become heated. And eventually it got to the point where, because I'm always looking better in general, and she's always telling me I'm looking better, when she tries to feed me something that you know I decide not to have, I just tell her, a reminder. I say, hey, you know, Grandma, you know what I used to be like. You're always telling me how good I look. You know, this is why. This is how it works for me. I'm not saying that you need to stop making this food, right, or offering it to our family. But I choose to eat a certain way, and you compliment me on it all the time. So, you know, just, you know, let me enjoy that and continue to enjoy that. And that works. She seems to get that, and now it's calmed down. It took me a while to kind of get to that point, but I find that works personally for her, because she's always acknowledging how well I'm doing. So I just remind her of the things that she's been telling me, and of the changes that I've made that have been doing that, and then it makes sense to her. Yeah.
I'm gonna jump in here before one of you guys continue, because you just reminded me of the very obvious double standard that exists always. I think, you know, among family members, because especially, you know, you've got your roles in a family or an extended family where you've got maybe, you know, a senior chef in the kitchen who's going to do things their way, and, you know, you are not going to break them of that. You know, you are not changing their recipe. And, you know, more often than not, in almost everybody's households that I see, because I seem to get invited for meals in a lot of places, is that if they know that, you know, I'm eating a little bit, you know, differently or a little bit healthier, that somehow there are two sets of plates that appear in that table. There's the old way of doing it, you know, with like all kinds of flour and everything else that you might dump in it, you know, and then there's the new way with the modified flour or whatever it is, you know, kind of like, hey, let's appease Todd because he's, you know, he's eating with us. So,
yeah. Nice friends.
That's actually, you know, that's really interesting, and that's kind of where I was thinking too. There's one is, you know, the one particular person is my dad, who you know, real sort of old school Italian. We all just grew up on pasta and Italian bread. And, you know, he read the first book, which is a book on gluten-free living. And just like ranted and raved about the book, like was like, how does he know this stuff? You know, like, you know, was just blown away by the book, and was just absolutely loved the book. And then it was like, so cool. Are you going to adopt that way of eating? He's like, no. you know, and he's just like, I'm not going to change, and that's just the way it is. And you know, anytime that he's taken my advice and eaten, you know, gluten-free and grain-free, and you know, his you know, any symptoms that he has go away within days. You know, I asked him, he's the kind of guy, he's one of these guys that takes Prilosec and Zantac and Tums and just kind of lives on this stuff because of his acid reflux, and within a day or two those symptoms are gone. Bloating is gone. Like, he feels 100% better, yet it's not something that he can ever sustain, you know, for a sustained period of time. So, you know, so it's sort of like one of those things where I just have to, you know, be there if he has questions, and that's it, without putting
So
it, putting
I
it in
totally feel what you're talking about. 'Cause my mom is the same way, and as kids, as they're kids, you want what's best for your parents all the time.
Yeah.
And when you're in a profession that is a health profession and your job is to make people healthier, and your parents are having a hard time following those principles, it hurts. Like, it hurts you, because you're like, if you don't stop this, in a matter of months or a few years, you're going to be very ill.
Yeah.
And you get to the point where it's going to be no turning back, So I think it's even harder for us who know how detrimental it can be to watch, like, a parent or like a spouse or something not want to change their habits. You just want to, like, smack the shit out of them, like, get with it, you know?
Your family, like, the people that are closest to you are the ones that are not going to listen to you at all.
Exactly.
At all.
No, you know what? I think I have to disagree with that, and that sort of leads me to the next question I want to ask you guys, which was, who's closest to you that's really taken up the cause the best? So the complete opposite of what we were just talking about. Who's your biggest proponent?
I'll jump on that first, because my partner, both in love and business and life, Barbara, she was actually a vegan when we started dating each other. I was on the eat everything diet, all right? Literally, I didn't care. I ate Manchurian Wok 5 days a week and, like, whatever, right? But anyways, she was a vegan, and she had been a vegan for years, about 5 years. And when I started I started with a paleo diet, strictly paleo. And at first, she thought, as a vegan, right, she thought the whole thing was crazy. But as the weight started to drop off and the health improved and the skin improved and the energy improved and the athletic performance improved, she realized that even as a vegan, eating about as clean as she could by the book, that it was just not working with her body, and that she was not getting the results that she should have been getting from being a personal trainer and eating this way. And after so long of just watching it take effect on me, and I clearly didn't push my ways on her. I'm not going to tell a vegan to start eating bacon and stuff with me, right? She decided to try it for her own. She started throwing in some fish, some meat, started cutting out the grains. She eventually switched over, and she's been primal with me ever since. We've both eaten this way for a couple of years now, and we know that it's a sustainable way that we'll eat forever. So there you go. That's someone who was directly the closest to me and had the most opposite diet. Yet they were, they just watched what was happening, and she decided to try it out.
Was there ever a moment in your relationship where it actually caused problems, like she would be disgusted?
No, you know what? We met each other. We met each other online, actually. And on, I think, our second or third date, we went out for dinner together. We were at Jack Astor's, a restaurant. And I didn't know she was a vegan yet. And I went to go order a cheeseburger and ask her what she was ordering, and she was getting some vegetarian option. And I found out she was a vegetarian, and I was like, is this going to be a problem? Because, we may as well square this out now. But she was very, very accepting. She's never been the type to push her ways on anything. So I also made sure.
As, like, blood is, like, dripping down your face. Like, is this okay?
Like a chicken foot coming out of your mouth.
Yeah, right?
So you guys did not meet on paleosingles.com.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Somebody grab that domain if it's not taken already.
So, I don't know if you guys know this, but I used to be a vegetarian and a raw foodist.
You mentioned that in the last podcast.
Yeah. The reason is because I think it's important for people to dive into a certain way of eating to see if it works for them. I don't think it's good enough to be like, I don't agree with that just because everybody else tells me not to agree with that. I think it was important for me to really live the lifestyle and to live that, to say, okay, this really is not working for me. So that gave me some sympathy to people who do choose to live a vegan or vegetarian lifestyle, because I was there once and I wanted to really test it out. And it was more of the fact that, okay, this is not working for me. I need meat in my diet to feel healthy and to feel energetic, So I think that's another reason why I choose not to say anything. and just have people see how I'm living.
So
let's explore that. I want to explore that a little bit more. Relationships with any friends that we may have that just completely disagree with how we eat, and if they're vegan or vegetarian, or any sort of labeled diet.
Right.
Where I think I always tell people food is not religion, and don't get so attached to a label, because then you become less attached to the signals from your own body that may be telling you that the way you're eating is not working for you.
Yes.
So it's like I've always found it sort of entertaining to bash vegans in the past, but lately, do
you have any good jokes?
What's that? No, I mean probably, but I'd have to think about it. But lately, I'm just it just doesn't. If it works for you and it makes you happy, then who am I to say it's wrong?
Right.
It's like I've got vegans and vegetarians that follow me on Facebook, and all I do is post pictures of bacon and steak. Mm-hmm. But because I think there's more. I think we can find more commonalities than people realize. Non-GMOs. Sustainable, local, obviously we can all agree that we should eat more fruits and vegetables. So I think there's a lot more commonality there than things that should be pulling us apart. So
yeah, well, sure, because the vast majority of people are not paying attention to their diet at all and will eat whatever. So, I mean, you've got the subset of people, vegans and vegetarians, they care. They may not be, they may not be in the same place as you, with the science and really what their own personal drives are telling them. But they do care. They do care. So.
Just to talk about a little bit what you're saying, Joe, I think the bottom line is we're all searching for health. We're all searching for vitality and energy. And it was actually when I was a raw foodist that I learned a lot. I really did. I learned about alkaline versus being acidic. I learned about sprouting foods. I learned about this is when I learned about kefir and things like that. Things that are really powerful foods that I still incorporate in my diet, and why it's really important for us to have raw foods in our diet and to balance it out. So there's really great things about all of these different lifestyles and diets. I think you just have to find what works for you and go with it.
Okay, so I want to interject just so that we can cover just a broad spectrum of this topic, right? Switch it up a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about, maybe, and these will be better questions for you guys than me probably, is do you guys ever have clients who are working with a doctor or another health professional who is very questionable about the diet or the plan that you've got them on? And how do you guys recommend handling those situations? How would you guys talk to your doctor? I think that's a question I see pop up on Facebook a lot. And yeah, I'd like to hear what you guys have to say about that. So Joe, what do you think?
I mean, I do come across that quite a bit, and I've even had conversations and even some arguments with doctors on the subject. Doctors are extraordinarily busy, trying to collect $22.50 for Medicaid. That's for us in the States. I know it's different for you up there. But down here, doctors have to see just a shitload of patients to make, an exorbitant amount of money. They don't really have time to read the newer literature, the newer scientific research that comes out. And some of the stuff isn't new at all. And for them to have to hear some of these facts from just a lowly nutritionist like me, they get offended. A lot of times they get offended, despite the fact that their clients are improving, despite the fact that the clients are losing weight, despite the fact that their cholesterol numbers are improving, their blood sugar is improving, or they're reversing diabetes or reversing autoimmune disease. They're still stuck on oh God, it's, saturated fat is going to, clog up your arteries. It's like, man, I can't believe we're still here. But those are the times where it's like your relationship with your client is first and foremost, and whether their doctor is on board with that or not, you can say, look, here's this study, this study, this study.
But how do you recommend that the clients, the regular folk, how do you recommend they have a conversation with their doctor? Or do you recommend they just see their doctor for what they're seeing him for and agree to disagree and be like, sorry, I don't like my diet, peace?
It's really tempting to want to argue with people. It's really tempting to want to argue with doctors and have your client sort of stand up to that. But at the end of the day, as long as your client is getting results and they're feeling better, that's all that matters. And like you said, just let them go to their doctor for whatever they're seeing them for. The only issue with that is when people start to see improvements in symptoms or disease and they no longer need a particular medication, man, sometimes the doctor is just really reluctant to take them off the meds.
Yeah.
And then that's a problem. So like for a really good example is someone who's on thyroid medication and their metabolism, their thyroid function improves drastically. Now if they stay on Armour or Synthroid or whatever medication they're on, they're going to go from hypothyroid to hyperthyroid, and that's a whole new set of issues if you don't have a doctor that's really on board. And so you've got to have a conversation with the client saying, look, you're going to swing the other way. You've got to call the shots, and that's really what it's about. Is really empowering the client to say, look, it's your body. This is your decision, and you've got to have a doctor that's on board with you so you can responsibly come off of the medication, wean off the medication in a way that's healthy and that's safe. And if that doctor isn't on board, then they have to find a doctor. That's
which is an excellent, just quick point we should discuss. What's that? There's a new reference for people to find a paleo or holistic doctor right now. What's that called? I'm looking for
Paleo Physicians Network.
That's what it is. There we go.
There's also Primal Doc as well.
Primal Doc. That's the other one I was looking for.
Yeah.
So everybody knows, right? On the internet, on Facebook, through social media, you can find a professional in your area, Paleo Physicians Network or Primal Docs, and they're MDs and they're also NDs and nutritionists, and there are new ones joining the group all the time. So yeah, that's a great way if you want to look for a doctor that's going to be more on board with the current research and with helping to educate you, not just treat symptoms. So
excellent. Yeah, Eric, did you have something else you wanted to add to that as far as clients and doctors?
No, Joe, I agree with what you said, and I feel fortunate enough that the clients that I've had, they've been on board, and when I talk with them, and I say, okay, if you're on a particular medication, it's not my job to take you off of that medication. It's my job so that your doctor will take you off of that medication. And luckily, I've been in situations where I haven't really met any resistance. Mm-hmm. So they're able to eventually get off whatever medication they are on and continue with me and when coaching to improve them. So, but I think what you said was right on.
Hey, let me switch that up a little bit, but kind of along the same lines. Have you ever worked with clients where their spouse or significant other was not on board with it, and how do you handle that?
I have, and nothing against us fellas, but it's usually the guys who their wives come to or whatever, and the guys have resistance against it. Because they don't want to change the way they eat. They think that what they're eating is right. And even though they're having symptoms as well, they hold on to that. I don't know what that's all about, but we need to do that, right? So, again, it's more about that particular person and working with them and saying, you know what, do this for right now. Cook for your family the way you normally do. You make a plate of these particular foods. Watch how your health improves and start letting the questions come to you.
Yeah.
Right? Don't try to throw anything on anybody. You continue to cook the way you want to. When you go to the doctor and every time you continue to improve, oh, she's feeling awesome. Oh, my wife is looking fabulous. When all these things start to happen, then that's when the questions will come and you can start to open up a conversation there. That's how I handle the situation, and it seems to work most of the time.
And I want to actually just give that praise, because we've definitely seen that work. I know even just recently, Barbara had a client where, you know, the gluten was just killing her. All right, she was clearly gluten intolerant, and that's really what it was. After reading a book or two, she started prepping her own meals on the side, even though she did all the cooking for all the family, making her own food her own way, and was getting results like crazy. And even her husband, who I train, and is very resistant to a lot of the he trains because she tells him to, right?
Yeah, right.
He's definitely seen the changes, and he's started to allow her now to, when she's making her meals, to make that kind of meal for both of them. And so the rest of the time he's still kind of doing his own thing, but he knows that half the time he's following what she's doing, and that's because he watched it work firsthand, and that worked for us. So that is a good method.
Yeah. And I think there comes a time when you have to also recognize when it's time to sort of cut the client loose. And I've had to do that a couple of times too, just to save my own sanity and the fact that it wasn't, you know, may not have been the psychologically may not have been the healthiest situation for me or for the client or for the client's relationship with their significant other, you know, where it's, you know, I had, you know, cases where, you know, the wife was going to Weight Watchers and was all about counting points and eating, you know, Weight Watcher Twinkies, and the husband was, you know, no joke. I mean,
Weight Watchers Twinkies? Are you serious?
That's perfect.
Well, you can eat whatever you want on Weight Watchers as long as it's in their point system.
Oh.
I did work with a client who had just hopped on Weight Watchers. They were all excited to tell me about it, and their meals consisted of Weight Watchers brand microwave dinners. Dinners.
Oh my God, that's horrible.
But that's the thing. So I had like, you know, I'll have a husband and wife sitting in front of me, and I'm not going to hold back because the husband or the wife happens to be my client, the other one just sitting in, and so I'm railing against Weight Watchers because they're promoting crap food, just as long as it's, like you said, within a point system, and they're almost taking personal offense to it, and that's when it's like, you know, a way of eating starts to become almost like religion, like I'm attacking them personally. Yeah. You know, and it's, you know, but it, you know, it gets to the point where a number of times I had to say, you know what, maybe you should go try Weight Watchers for a while, just because, you know, the spouse didn't want to cook a separate meal, just didn't feel like cooking a separate meal for the husband to eat healthy.
Hey, let me interrupt here because I want to focus you guys into a point that I think.
Yeah, focus us. Keep us focused.
No, because I think I'm hearing a commonality here, and one of these things is, you know, compliance. How do you keep your clients compliant before you necessarily have to release them, you know, for sanity situations? You know, what is it about, you know, about a client that prevents them from staying compliant? Because obviously it's generally in here, you know. What is it? You know, what do you guys see? You know, and you guys have a variety of different clients. You got a different clienteles and different types of businesses, but let's see if we can sort of establish what's preventing these people from really doing the right things for themselves.
I think a lot of it is self-sabotage, and when people get to a point where they're actually feeling healthy and looking good, they're not used to that, so they revert back to the way they used to, and they start gaining weight again because it's stepping outside of their comfort zone. Even though it's healthier, and even though they look better, and even though it's working, once they put like a toe out of that comfort zone, they're like, oh shit, and they want to come back. So you know what? They'll cancel sessions, or they'll start to eat the foods that they are comfortable eating again. You know, so I feel like it's a lot. As health coaches and as fitness professionals, it's not about the body, in my opinion. It's more about the mind and how that is messing with everything in your life. So it's more than just what you put in your mouth, it's what you put up in here, and really helping that person to gain a better control of that and letting them know they're worth stepping out and becoming a better person.
Yeah, totally. And that brings us back to like our, you know, our relationship and the client's relationship with themselves. And just like they'll have, maybe well-intentioned doctors or spouses or family or loved ones sort of pop up and say, are you sure you can eat bacon? Are you sure you can eat red meat? I read this article that red meat's going to kill you before your next birthday. And they'll have that voice pop up in their own head saying, wow, I'm doing really good here. Maybe I should stop. You know what I mean? So so I mean that's resistance. That's there's a lot of names for it. I like resistance is the author Stephen Pressfield talks about this resistance where it's this voice in your head that's trying to stop you from becoming better or achieving your goals. I call it the gate. Gates kind of come crashing down in front of you, and whenever you see one of those gates, its purpose is to stop you from achieving your goal. It's that voice that's.
What is it? But what is it though? What's preventing me from achieving my goal? Is it too hard for me? Is it that I see some progress, like Eric is saying, and I sort of feel like I got to go, one step back for every 1.5 steps that I take forward? Like, what is it? What is preventing me from getting out of my own way?
I think it's also because people are always in the mindset that this is short term. Because they're used to being on a diet for short term. They're used to being on a diet for 2 months because they're getting ready to look cute for a wedding, and then right away it's like, okay, I don't need to do this anymore, and they go back to the way they used to. So around that 2-month, 3-month mark, that's when their bodies are usually like, okay, I'm ready to start eating chocolate cake for breakfast again. So why isn't this happening? That's when their bodies are like, okay, this is weird. Something is wrong here. No, and their minds are like, okay, I have to keep doing this, but my body's telling me no. Because they're used to a certain amount, and then it's like, okay, my crash diet is over, let me gorge myself again. They have to get into the routine of, this is a lifestyle thing. It's not a 2-3 month thing, and then I'm going to go back to the way I used to be.
Yeah, one of the things I'll ask my clients, one of the first things I'll ask my clients is, how long do you think this is going to take? Like, when do you expect results? And kind of goes back to one of the things we talked about in the last podcast. It's like, what are your goals? And let's clearly define what your goals are, and how long it's going to take. And if they say, well, I expect to lose 20 pounds in a month, then it's like, you're not thinking correctly. So it's sort of getting them to realize that this is quite a journey, and all we can do is sort of chunk it down, step by step, meal by meal, day by day, and that's it. Go ahead, John.
So I want to jump in, almost kind of switching it up, but with the same context of what's going on. I think that just in general, a big part, and this is going to tie into how food can affect relationships and how this can become a sustainable lifestyle, because that's what you guys are kind of talking about now, is the importance of cooking and the availability of all the resources that are out there, like blogs like mine, right? Like Sex, Food, and Kettlebells, like the stuff you have. Cooking can be very important. I think a lot of people are used to being bombarded by convenient plans, right? Things like microwave dinners, even though it's a diet program that helps you lose weight, it's been made easy. And I think that it's important that people embrace life again like it would have to be before we had all these things. You needed to cook your food, right? That's how you live. So I think that it's important that we encourage people to explore that as an option to have some of the foods that they're used to having when they want a cheat day type meal. They've got options of how they can make delicious food and how they can keep variety in their lives so that they can continue to eat this way. But also, even from a social aspect, a couple points I want to touch on. Cooking can be an excellent team building thing with your partner or your family. A lot of what I see going on the internet and stuff is people getting a cookbook that they like or they want to try, like Make It Paleo or Balanced Bites book, and they Practical Paleo, and they decide that one day a week they're gonna pick a recipe in that book and they're gonna cook it for dinner together or lunch or dessert, and they'll go through that whole book. It might take a year. but you get all this practice cooking, and you can show your partner, even if they don't particularly eat that way, you know, the variety of the food, how good it can taste, how, you know, how it's not going to kill you, and, you know, you can both eat it. And at the same time, it also plays into social gatherings. If, you know, you can have your friends over. If you're always going other places, it's good to have your friends over and you prepare the food. And it's a great opportunity to talk about, you know, if they're wondering how delicious it is and, you know, why you don't eat other foods. It's just a great way. I think cooking and exploring that creative side is really important to the sustainability of this diet and to making certain holidays and certain, you know, functions work for you.
Yeah, John, those are really, really good points. Like, especially with the cooking aspect and making it more of like a community type of thing, which is awesome because people are scared that they're not going to be able to cook the same way, or that just because something is organic, you know, people who don't know what organic is about, they're scared of it. You know, they're like, they think it's weird, you know, or they think it doesn't matter. But I think it opens up time for conversation and such when you're cooking together.
Yeah, I think that's a really positive point. Maybe you kind of wrap up on that. But, you know, the cooking aspect of it is instead of like looking at where, you know, where you're different, where there's a separation between, you know, the people around you and, you know, you and the people around you, your family, your friends, your loved ones, you know, just invite them over and don't even talk about, hey, this is paleo. Just cook some fucking food that's delicious and let everyone enjoy it and have a good time. Have them help cook the food with you, and don't even talk about it and just enjoy it. You know, like Todd and Marla come over all the time. We cook weird shit like, you know, chicken hearts and cow tongue. It's just a good time.
Well, in butter. In butter.
Everything's in butter.
Yeah, there's a sign on the kitchen and on Joe's wall that says step 1, turn on the stove, step 2, add butter, and then everything else.
Go from there.
Well, you know, that actually reminds me of when I was filming one of my Big Primal episodes. For those who are interested, if you go to big-primal.com or look up Big Primal, there's some interesting cooking videos I've been working on. Haven't made one in a while. Anyways, we were doing wing night, and I was inviting a friend over because I needed another person in the shot. And he gets to my front door. I go to let him in, and he says, "Yeah, well, what are we doing?" And I said, "Oh, well, you know, I'm filming this paleo cooking show." And he goes, "Oh shit." I'm like, "Bro, it's a wing night, all right? I mean, it's going to be awesome." I'm like, "Shut the front door, you know, get inside." And, you know, of course, it was excellent. And you guys can see the video if you want. But,
yeah. Those videos, a Big Primal, YouTube search Big Primal. They're really good videos. It's sort of like Primal paleo version of Epic Food Time.
Epic Meal Time, yeah.
Epic Meal Time.
Epic Something Time, yeah. We're trying not to promote.
The one last point I just want to bring up is with kids. I work a lot with kids, and that's always a sticking point, and it ties in with the cooking thing. It's, you know, one of the most common questions I get from parents, like, how am I going to get my kid to eat this stuff? And the answer always is, have them help you cook it, and that will work, and it works every single time. Wow. Even if it's just stirring the pot, you know, breaking the green beans and putting the butter in, whatever it is, have them help. And when they help, they eat it every time.
Amazing.
Every time.
Great.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Let me begin to wrap on that point. I don't know. Do any of you guys have anything else to add before we try and close this episode?
I'm good.
Okay, I mean, you know, I think that's it. You know, you can kind of say that, you know, you have to take ownership of this. You know, let a child take ownership of a meal and get him or her engaged, and you know, you'll see something positive of that. But that you know, really means all of us take ownership when you're shopping. Be a hunter-gatherer when you're in the store. Then take the next step. Be a hunter-gatherer when you're looking for a health and nutrition professional, a fitness professional. Be a hunter-gatherer when you're looking for a CSA. So, and get involved in a community of these people. Bring them into your world. You know, Eric had said that, you know, you're feeding more than just your face. You know, you're feeding your mind. So, you know, feed your mind with the right people, put yourself in the right environments, you know, listen to these guys, read their blogs, watch their videos.
Make sure you join us on Facebook at A Tribe Called Health, where you can join in on this. You'll be able to post your questions. You'll be able to keep updated on the podcast. And we want lots of people. We want people talking with each other, and we're going to have all kinds of people coming on the show. We got a good lineup coming up. So stay tuned.
Let's hear about that lineup, even if it's not set in stone, and maybe if there's no particular order. Why don't you give us a preview of who we might?
I believe next week we've got Jennifer from a page called Paleo Dieting, and she's had a lot of success with the paleo diet. Very inspiring. Rob Wolf's done a little post on her, and I love her page. I've been following it since before I had my page. So we've got her next week, and I believe the week after we've got April from Butterflies, Peace, and Paleo, I think it's called, which is
that's an awesome name. I love that name.
Yeah. And April and I are both going to be at the Paleo Effects in Austin, Texas, the week before that. So when we come back, we're going to be talking about our experiences at Paleo Effects and sharing a lot of that information we learn with everybody.
Definitely looking forward to that one. Absolutely.
So those are the next couple, and we'll keep the others to
we've got, we've got, I don't know if it's set in stone, but the founder of, what's the page? Ethical Omnivore Movement?
Yep. Yeah, Lana Jo Salin.
Yep, yeah, so she's going to be on, I think, after April, right?
Yeah, she should be. Should be the next one in line.
Somebody that you guys would like us to have on the show or to interview? Yeah, let us know. Let us know.
The best way to do that is, again, go to the Facebook page and just leave us a comment or send us a message.
And then the people who you really want in the show, just go annoy them and tell them how awesome we are, and that they should be on our show.
Totally. Yeah, tell everyone about this.
One more plug for our Facebook page. Everybody go to the Facebook page. Tell us what we're doing right. Tell us what we're doing wrong. And check in. That's
cool. John, at sexfoodandkettlebells.com. What else? Yep. Where else can people find you?
LegendaryFitCanada.com is where you'll just see sort of my business and how I run things from a fitness perspective. You can also find a tab to see where I'm teaching workshops, see if I'll be in your area, and
I was going to ask when you got coming up. You have a MoveNat thing coming up, don't you?
I've got a couple coming up in Ontario, in the Toronto area, and I do have one in the summer in Vancouver.
Eric, where can people find you?
My name, EricHolst.com.
Whole sex wellness kettlebells, right?
I'm switching this shit up, I'm telling you. Eric Sex Holst. That's going to be my name now. So you go there, you could go to Eric Holst Wellness. I have a YouTube channel where I answer questions, and also just search me on Facebook with Eric Holst.
Cool. And you could find me at wellnesspunks.com, also facebook.com/wellnesspunks. And I'm going to throw another shameless plug out there for my book, which drops on Friday. It's called So, Planting the Seeds for Health, Well-Being, and a Superhero Life. We talked a lot about setting goals and working towards achieving those goals. That's pretty much what the book is about. The website for that is So Happy Now. That's SOW, happynow.com. And that's it. Todd, you got anything else you want to say?
Nope. If you need to find me, I'll be here on this program. You're not going to see me, I think, on the next one. There's a special edition coming up. And, you know, if you check backstage at some of the biggest productions around the country, you might find me there, but I'll be eating on burritos. Look for that guy. Okay.
Nice. Right on. All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
Well, peace out.
Peace.